Welcome to Whiskey Live, everyone. I'm your host, Chastity. I'm the brand ambassador for Uncle Nearest in Chicago. And I'm joined tonight with my Uncle Nearest Whiskey family. Hey, guys.
Hello.
How are you feeling tonight?
Great to hear your voice, Chastity.
Yours too. I'll just take a moment and let you guys introduce yourself.
I'll get us started. My name is Ian Hosick. I'm also here in Chicago. I work alongside Chastity. And Lynn, not to sound like a stalker, but I think we're neighbors now because your good friend Angie Jackson is.
Oh, she lives in my basement.
Yeah, I just moved into your neighborhood. I'm a really good friend of Angie.
That's not at all creepy. It's good.
No, I didn't think it would be. I thought it would be totally normal, so I brought it up right away.
Yeah, she rents my basement. So okay, awesome.
Yeah, I've got a fun story. Lynn, your good buddy Bernie Lovers.
Yes.
I live in his old apartment.
Of course you do.
Do you recognize it?
Yes, I was like the other day. I was looking at that bar. I was like, I thought it looked so familiar.
Wait, Richie, you didn't build that bar yourself?
No.
Here, I thought all this time that this was your.
No. I built the bottles that went in
Hilarious.
it. You know what? And he didn't even donate any bottles from my home bar when I moved in.
But you have a lot of good bottles, so you're.
It looks like it's pretty full back there, though, Richie.
It is good. Yeah, so Bernie is just such an amazing buddy of mine. I've known him almost since the day I've been in the industry, and so everything he does is amazing. I just don't need to know what happened to this apartment before I moved in. That's all I'm saying.
I'm offline about that. So.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I got to introduce myself too. Yes, I'm Richie Michaels. I got carried away there for a second. I'm the national brand ambassador with Uncle Nearest. I'm based here in Louisville, Kentucky. So.
Great, and I'm Matt Carlson. I'm the brand steward, or one of the brand stewards for Uncle Nearest here in Los Angeles, California.
I'm Matt Neal, and I'm the brand ambassador for Uncle Nearest in the UK.
Yay. Well, thanks, guys. So to our viewers, we're here each and every Wednesday for the foreseeable future to bring you all things whiskey related with our distillery peers. And so tonight I have the pleasure of introducing our special guest, Heaven Hill Brand's National Spirits Portfolio Mixologist and Educator, Lynn House. Hi, Lynn. How's it? How you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm so honored. Thank you so much for asking me. It's great. I'm happy to be here.
Are you drinking some whiskey?
I am. I'm drinking a little Elijah Craig, of course.
I'm having Elijah Craig too.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
Well
what is
done.
everyone else drinking tonight? We didn't even talk about whiskey. What are you guys drinking?
I think Ian and I have the same bottle here.
I think we do have the same bottle, yeah.
So in honor of Lynn, I picked up the Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond.
I am jalouse because I'm out.
Yeah.
And I'm not leaving my apartment to go get it.
Well, there is another 100 proof whiskey that I could recommend if you have a bottle.
Cassie has the address. You guys can always send me stuff. So.
Okay. I'll take care of that.
We can do that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Matt,
what are you having?
Well, I'm sipping on Matt's recommendation, this other delicious 100 proof whiskey. I'm sipping on our Uncle Nearest 1856. Okay. But Lynn, for you, I am after I finish this glass, I am going to switch over to some Evan Williams single barrel. This one, yes, this one's beautiful. This one was barreled in August 4th, 2011. I'm excited.
Okay, so you're on the current vintage. Awesome.
Yep. I'm going to crack that one open in just a second.
Nice. Well, Lynn, we love to have you here tonight. You have such an extensive career in spirits and hospitality, and you also had an acting career prior to.
I did.
I mean, it's pretty awesome that you get to dabble in two different careers. Can you just very briefly tell us a little bit about your background to our viewers who might not know you?
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, went to Miami of Ohio, and then went on to professional training school at the British American Drama Academy in Oxford, England. So I was a professional actor for many years, which meant that I was a professional bartender and waitress. Because when the gig ends, you need another gig. And so, you know, hospitality fit perfectly, and the two professions lend very well to each other. It's not surprising that other people like Dale DeGroff and Gaz Regan, bless his soul, you know, all came from theater backgrounds as well. So I worked professionally as an actor for many years, did off-Broadway, went to school in Europe, toured the country during children's theater, worked at Goodman Theater, picked up a couple of acting awards, and then I kind of aged out of my category, to be quite honest. That's how the industry works. And through the whole time, I was supporting myself in restaurants and bars, and I loved what I was doing. And around the time that that was happening was really during the birth of the cocktail renaissance. And I fell in love with it. I was in love with wine first, and I wanted to see the love of wine transfer into spirits. And that's kind of what kickstarted me getting into where I am now. So.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well, my team has some great questions to ask you tonight.
Awesome.
To get to know you a little bit better and your journey. And we're going to start with Ian.
Okay. Well,
neighbor, not a stalker.
Hey neighbor, not a stalker. I promise I'm not a stalker. Which is really reassuring, I'm sure. But kind of, you know, the industry has changed so much since even I've been able to be a part of it, which I actually had a career in classical music before I jumped over.
Right, something you two have in common.
Oh, what did you do?
I was an opera singer.
I studied German opera, so.
Oh yeah. Well,
Matt,
wow.
Matt, Ian was an opera singer. Ian, you still are an opera singer. Come on.
I is an opera singer.
He wasn't an English major, so.
I was not, but I actually studied. I studied in Germany for a time too. So that's kind of German lieder is really my wheelhouse. For opera, I did a lot of contemporary opera.
Oh, fantastic! Awesome.
Yeah, I did a lot of American contemporary. But back to liquor.
Okay.
I'm curious how did your role kind of become necessary? How has the need for education changed, and especially now that the consumers for spirits are inundated with information and at times even overeducated? I'm kind of curious what you.
Everyone's like, what? So when I first started with Heaven Hill, it was really interesting. My entry position was national brand ambassador for Palma. So I just represented Palma, which is a beautiful liqueur in our portfolio, and I was the national person for that. But my own personal background was obviously running beverage programs here in Chicago, and I saw the success of what educating my staff did to promote those programs. The more I say learning is earning all the time. The more you know, the more you can do. And so I saw from that lesson of what I was doing in my bars, like the more I taught my staff, quite frankly, the more we sold. So I brought those principles into what I was doing. And I also had great lessons from people like Charlotte Voisey and Claire Warner, I think Jacob Briers, you know, people who they approach brand work from an educational standpoint, not just about the party. And, you know, as you mentioned, our consumer is so much smarter. It used to be when I started bartending years ago, 30 plus years ago, whatever sold in a retail is what you had behind the bar. And now it's the bartender who's influencing what people buy at retail. And henceforth, the consumer is smarter, the bartender is smarter. So education is key. It's just, it's what gives a great foundation to the movement that we've had and regaining pride in this industry. And so I love the fact that I'm seeing like not just brand ambassadors, but people like, I'm a brand educator, and you're not just talking about your brand, you're talking about categories, you're talking about categories outside, and helping people just really understand. So, you know, we all rise the tide together. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Which is why we have you here tonight. You can not only talk about Uncle Nearest, but your great portfolio as well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I have to say, just you know, being in the industry for so long myself, education is extremely important. I remember going out for job interviews, and you know, the manager testing me on the spot. You know, what's Pellegrino, what's Tanqueray, you know, things like that. And if you didn't know it, you didn't get the job. So, as you know, one of the things I have learned from you, Lynn, since you know, following your journey for you know, for about 10 years now, was that how important education is. So I'm glad that so many people get to learn, so many bartenders get to learn from you, because I've seen you in action, and you're really good at what you do.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's so important. When I first moved to Chicago, I totally did not get hired for my first job because I didn't know Jack. They gave me a wine test, and I was like, I know white, red, and pink. That's about it. I mean, I'm from Ohio, you know. So.
Pink is where you mix the white and red together, right?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. We had a spout, and you either poured white, red, or pink, you know, and that was a real kind of learning lesson for me. It was like, wow, if I really want to work at the places I want to work and have the career that I want to have, I have to invest in learning more about it. And, you know, again, I just keep saying hashtag learning is earning. The more you know about everything you touch, the better you're going to be at your craft. You help elevate the craft. And at the end of the day, it helps put, you know, dollars in your bank account. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, Richie Michaels, you have a great question to follow that up.
Well, yeah, I got a couple of questions for you, Lynn, but I got to back you up with how the importance of education in the last kind of decade or 15 years has come to the surface in the industry. We've just gone through a process now of just realizing its importance, but it's amazing. I don't know if you've interacted with our beautiful producer, Sailor. We were having. Hi, Sailor. Me and Sailor were having a talk about this exact thing the other day, and trying to pinpoint when we both realized the importance of education. And Sailor told a story about when she first learned about wine, and she noticed almost immediately. She was working in a bar, and she went home and didn't know anything about wine, studied wine, and almost immediately started being able to sell it to her tables, and saw her checks go up, saw her tips go up, and it's almost instantaneous. Like it's so tangible, the importance of education in the industry. You can see it, the effects of it almost immediately. It's kind of amazing.
Absolutely.
And then the people you serve, they know if you're knowledgeable or if you're not. And
they know, and they want it too. That's part of hospitality. It's part of it's part of the sexy, is like teaching your guests and bringing them along on this journey, and them walking away not only from a great experience, but walking away feeling a little smarter, a little whatever. You know, when I was in fine dining, I loved having guests who, you know, I teach them about a wine, and they would be in the next week, and they would bring their friends, and they'd order that same bottle of wine, and then they were spewing the facts. So they look like, you know, the big kahuna at the table, and it was great, you know, and I made more money because I'm like, I taught you about that, you know, you're welcome. But the same thing translates into spirits. And I'm so excited to see that the industry is really swinging into that direction. So.
Yeah, Lynn, I was just trying to rack my brain around the first time I think I interacted with you, and I don't know if this is.
Oh, I'm scared.
I don't know if this is right or not, but I have this very vague memory of when I used to be the beverage director for the Marriott downtown Louisville, and I think that you sponsored a gala with Palmer when you were working Palmer, and I think that's the first time I got to interact with you, and that was a long time ago now.
That was 7 years, almost 7 years, 7 years ago. Yes.
Yes, it was a while ago. But I remember thinking, wow, I don't know anything about this Palmer brand, but apparently they're really cool because they throw amazing parties like this. Yeah, it was a great time.
So fun.
But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So
awesome.
I got a couple questions for you. So like, it's kind of a multi-part question, but I really want to know if you've seen over the years that you've been in the industry, whether you look back to a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, have you noticed a really noticeable change in the amount of diversity that is in the industry today compared to a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. I've noticed. I'm going to jump back 20 years ago first, which was not the question, but I'm going to jump back 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, particularly when you look at fine dining and craft, more the elevated part of our industry, there was next to no diversity, whether it was ethnicity, LGBTQ, gender, whatever. It was, quite frankly, a lot of straight white guys, you know.
Yeah, if you didn't look like Fred Noah or Jimmy Russell, then get out of here.
You know, and that translated to both sides of the fence. And so now what I've seen in the last 10 years, I saw a little more. I've been with Heaven Hill for 7, and I worked running beverage programs for 8 years before that. So 15 years. When I was in Chicago, it was myself and Debbie Peak, Jennifer Contraveos. We were the only 3 women I know running programs that were craft oriented, you know, more specialty. Not that there weren't female bartenders or whatever, but we were the only women that I knew of doing it. We were led by our fearless leader, Bridget Albert. And that was a long period before that changed. It was many, many years before that changed. We go back to 5 years, you know, I think the influence of Speed Rack in this country had a tremendous influence that just woke up people, particularly how many phenomenal women, when you're looking at diversity.
Yeah, that's our girl, Ivy Mix, if she's out there watching.
Woo, hi, Ivy.
We love her.
Ivy,
Lynette, and Lynette too.
Love those guys too. Fun story about Speed Rack. I competed the first year and I didn't want to.
We both did, remember?
But I was a craft bartender. I wasn't a speed bartender. And I told them, like, please don't make me do this because I'm not a speed bartender. I'm more of a finicky bartender. And they're like, we just want people to do it. And sure enough, I think I had like the slowest time, but Lynette took me aside and she's like, your wash lines were perfect.
Perfect.
And how many points do you score for perfect wash lines?
You know, but I got no points for speed. I was just like, I'm going to make, you know, but always obviously support what they do. But I think that's a lot. I think what I'm seeing right now that's been very interesting in the last, I'm going to say 2 years, really. Organizations like Causing a Stir have had a big influence in the industry, but we're actually seeing more diversity as far in educational opportunities and promotion for people of color, and that's all color, you know, yellow, gray, purple, black, green, everything. More LGBT inclusive initiatives happening. Tales, the change in Tales, the Beyond the Bar Committee. I'm actually a co-chair of the Beyond the Bar Committee, and our whole mantra is about promoting diversity and finding out ways to help that. And so I think there's been a really rapid change in the last 2 years as far as the industry is concerned. And I'm hoping that that momentum continues after, you know, we're through where we are right now, so.
So do you, like today, in today's world or in the recent world, do you really have a conscious notice of the difference of the way that the industry treats you as an African-American female now compared to previous to the last 2 years? Is it a very conscious thing?
I think conscious is a great word. It's definitely a much more of a conscientious thing because we're talking about it. We didn't talk about it 10 years ago. We definitely weren't talking.
I mean, do you personally, do you really personally consciously, like, has there been moments where you thought, wow, that wouldn't have happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
I think personally, what I have experienced is I don't get questioned anymore. And it may be a unique thing just because I do live a very public life in this industry, but even as recently as 4 years ago, I would go in to do a training. I won't say where or who.
Come on, blast now.
No throwing under the bus on this.
No throwing under the bus, but I did a training, and it was crazy because we sponsored the training. So we as a company, paid for everything. And it was an in-depth whiskey training. And the person who owned the venue looked at me and said, you know, when he walked in, the way my parents spell my name is also masculine, Lynn, there's no E. So I think he expected a guy to walk in. And I walked in and he kind of, I could see the startle. And he was like, oh, are you going to be able to speak to this? And, you know, you're in a public setting, you're representing brands. I had to take a big deep breath. And I couldn't be saucy bartender Lynn anymore. And so I just simply said to him that, like, hey, you know, my boss is Max Shapiro and he's an awesome man and he signs my paycheck every other week and he's very confident that I can speak to this. So you should feel comforted. And then of course I gave like the training of my life. I like was digging up facts out of my toes. I had a whole outline written with notes and I just like flipped it over and did it from memory. And when it was done, I looked at him, I'm like, we're good, huh?
Wow.
It was understood.
Good for you.
The shade was understood. So.
Where was this at again? I'm just
place far, far away.
So has there been, so that might be somebody in the past that maybe was a moment where you thought you had a real conscious moment of something negative. Has there been, like, in the last couple of years, has there been any conscious moments of some really awesome, positive movement in the right direction where you thought, wow, this is, as somebody who's been in the industry so long, this is so cool that this is how people are thinking in the right way now, as opposed to what I've experienced in the past?
Oh, absolutely.
Has there been any real awesome moments?
I think anytime I travel is I get to see little pockets of it. You know, I go into a bar and someone recognizes you and they're like, and you hear, I've heard a lot more in the last year, just like, thank you, which is crazy because you don't do your job for thanks, you know, you do it hopefully because you love it. But it's rewarding to hear people say, thank you, paved the way and I did this, or thank you, I saw you doing this, so I knew I could do it. Yes. Thank you for showing up, and because you showed up, you know I can show up. And so those little moments have been fantastic for me. I've met so many people. I mean, I'm in a really blessed position where I travel the country and get to meet so many people across the country. And I've met so many people, and particularly women and women of color, who've been like, I know you. And I'm looking at them like, I don't know who you are. You know, they're like, big hug. And they're just like, I know you. And I know that you were doing things and being there and being present before it was even a conscientious topic. And so I can't give one big moment, but there's been a lot of little moments that just really feed the soul. So.
It's really good to hear. As an outsider, I feel like I feel the momentum of the industry moving in the right direction. I feel like, just like you said, in the last couple of years, it's really ramped up a lot. Even as an outsider, I feel like I can really feel the energy moving in a good direction now.
It definitely has. I mean, I can say just 7-8 years ago, you know, I would go downtown Chicago. I wouldn't see any people of color, barely any women behind the bar. And I remember taking Bridget's class, Bridget Albert's class. She did the mixology. Lynn, help me. What is it called?
The Academy of Spirits and Culinary.
Thank you, guys. Big brain fart. But anyway, thank you. But I remember going home and searching. Literally, this is how I found Lynn. I went home and searched Black bartenders in Chicago, and Lynn House came up, and she was the only person of color I saw doing the things that I wanted to do. And so I'm going to say thank you, like I always do, because she's like, Lynn's like my bar mom. But really, she's encouraged and inspired me. But for, you know, now I see so much more diversity behind the bar, and even more so in these more you know, brand ambassador positions, or, you know, whatever. So I think that we are definitely heading in the right direction. And Lynn, we definitely owe you a thank you for that, in Chicago for sure. I know I do.
Oh, well, thank you. I think we've made some strides. I think we've got a long way to go, to be quite honest. You know, particularly when you're talking, I think we see a lot of more diversity at certain levels. Still in fine dining, I'm not seeing a lot of diversity. Still in craft cocktail bars, I see it in pockets of cities. I see it in Detroit, I see it in Chicago, I see it in DC, I see it in Atlanta, you know, but then I go to some cities, I'm like, you know. So there's strides to grow, and it's not taking opportunity away from anybody else. It's just creating more opportunities for everybody, and that's the approach I want people to think about. And then definitely in the brand world, I think there's so much more that we can do, but it's great to see faces like you and Tracy Franklin, Vance Henderson, or Alicia, you know, Josh Davis, of course, Mike Cullen, out there doing it. But we have a ways to go.
Yeah,
but,
we do.
But we're talking about it, and that's most important. So
right, exactly.
Speaking of change,
sorry, we have a question real quick. I want the guests to be able to ask questions.
Oh, absolutely.
As well. That's okay. We'll interlace them. We'll end the show. We had a guest with us ask what our go-to cocktail is. So let's end the show with that. We'll go around the room and you guys can all say what your go-to cocktail is at the moment. But Fawn Weaver is with us tonight, our beautiful founder and CEO.
Hi, Fawn.
Hello, Virgo. I think we have the same birthday. Is Fawn's birthday September 5th?
Yes.
It is.
Happy birthday.
Oh my God.
See, the magic continues.
Wow.
Virgo's in the house.
I'm surprised I never made that connection. Oh my God.
So Fawn asks Lynn, do you have a favorite brand within your portfolio? And if so, which one and why?
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah, definitely.
So my favorite brand within our portfolio is Sacred Bond Bottled and Bond brandy. It was the first creative project I got to work on with Heaven Hill 4 years ago. So it's a collaboration between Bernie and myself. So Bernie is the poster child for Bottle and Bond, right? I mean, it's literally tattooed on his arm, if you all know Bernie Lovers. And
I think I know the guy.
You may know that you're living in his place, so and I'm definitely the poster child of cocktails and great cocktails, and I love brandy. I've always loved brandy and love cognac. My family's from the South, so I come from that tradition. But I love that brand because we got to collaborate on it together, and it was an idea that he kind of lofted up first. And if you think about volleyball, I spiked it in. And I think it speaks a lot to who Heaven Hill is as a family-owned company, that we're very nimble, as Max would like to say. So innovation, great ideas come from within, and they get celebrated and they get punted up. And so, yeah, I'm super proud of that brand. I love that brand. It's
delicious.
Our baby, you
delicious.
know, and yeah, it's my personal favorite. If you were to ask me my favorite bourbon, it would definitely be Henry McKenna 10-year-old BIB, which sadly I'm out of right now. So
I think everybody is. It's pretty hard to find right now.
Oh, mate, you can't get it in the States.
I might have a sneaky bottle back here somewhere.
Good for you, Richie.
Want to come over?
I used to get that bottle for about $30, and now it's about $100 here in California.
I keep finding the bottles of it under the floorboards and
stop it.
So he did leave you some bottles.
Is the Sacred Bond available in the States? In all states, that is?
So Sacred Bond is not nationally distributed at this point in time. It is about in like 20, 21 states. You're definitely being careful with how we, just bottle and bond in a category. We're not in any danger of the juice, but we're definitely being careful to make sure that we're releasing it correctly so that we don't run into a Rittenhouse situation of like 5 years ago. But we launched it in 10 states, and it is rapidly growing in the states that it's present in. It's primarily an on-premise brand for us.
Is it available in Tennessee?
It is available in Tennessee.
Okay, you heard that, Fawn. Now you can go find a bottle.
It is.
That's what she's asking.
It is available in Tennessee.
And I believe, I might be wrong, but I think they make a cocktail with it on their menu at the Fox Bar in Tennessee. Because because last time I was there, I had one and it was spectacular.
Oh, fantastic. I know it's on a couple of menus out there. Husk Group works with it. So yeah.
There you go.
Excellent.
Okay.
Cool. Matt, see, you had a question, Matt Carlson?
Yeah, it kind of goes well with our conversation since we just got a question from Fawn. When everything started to shut down around the country, we had a conference call, as I think a lot of people did with their jobs. And one of the things Fawn told us was how stress is the enemy of creativity. And I thought that was such an astute thing. And I was wondering, for all of us, a number of us on this panel are also artists in addition to Ian and yourself. And I know that you being an educator and an artist and a writer and a cocktail creator, I was wondering how during this time you're trying to relieve stress and remain creative.
Oh, I'm trying to do anything I can. So I am, I'm growing plants. I grow a lot of plants too. So I love gardening. It's still really cold. So I literally have been taking all my scraps and I'm like restarting lettuce and potatoes and onions. So I'm growing this little recycled baby garden inside, which is great every morning to have to kind of get up and go feed that. I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm definitely going through the Netflix.
What are you watching? What's good right now?
Oh my gosh.
What does Lynn House watch on Netflix? I have to know.
Lynn House has watched a lot of really bad TV on Netflix. I watched
the Tiger King is
the whole
good
tiger thing. That was horrible, but I watched it. I was like, all right, what's everyone talking about? There's got to be a great cocktail that comes out of this. So
like watching a slow movie.
cocktails come out of it, but I was like, I just felt really dirty after watching that.
Yeah,
watching documentaries.
The cocktail could be the Carol Baskins. It's just a shot of Malort.
I know.
Yeah, don't spoil it for me.
I'm not going to spoil it. It'll be coming. I will have a great Tiger King cocktail come out of that.
Okay, I'll look forward to that.
Have you had to be creative about your job too? For instance, for us, our jobs have totally changed. 3 weeks ago, we were not hosting a whiskey seminar on Zoom. Have you had to adapt in your role at Heaven Hill as well?
180%. So I'm not a tech person, which Chastity can tell you. I'm like, how do I copy a link? How do I do that?
I hear you.
I talk for a living, and I get up in front of people and I talk for a living. I'm not in an office and I'm not on a computer except for the expense report that never gets done. I'm, in front of people. And so now that 100% of my life is literally in an office setting and online, that was the hardest change for me. But it's a big change, but we're doing a lot of, webinars internally. I'll be doing some webinars externally. I'm doing things like this. I did Danny and Jackie's happy hour. Chastity, you were on Adasha's live IG. I'm going to do like a weekly Friday event with her on that. And I'm rapidly learning how to use all the apps, getting backgrounds brought in, ordering tripods and stuff.
Are you doing any online shopping? I've been doing online shopping crazy.
Okay, so I am like so paranoid about online shopping, but I am so much more paranoid about going outside. I joined a seafood group this week, so I'm getting seafood delivered once a month.
Oh, cool.
And I just did my first Instacart today, so.
Lynn, we have a comment from Sarah Catlett.
Okay.
She says that she had an amazing 1.1 whiskey connoisseur experience with Carolyn at the Heritage Center in December of 2016. And she has a very special place in her heart for Heaven Hill, as that was a very special moment for her.
Oh, that's fantastic. And a shout out to that team, because that team is who we're making hand sanitizer out of the Evan Williams Bourbon Experience. And so a lot of the teams that work in both the Heaven Hill, the Bourbon Experience and the Evan Williams, they're the ones who are helping produce the hand sanitizer. And they're such a cherished member of the family. And so hats off. We'll make sure.
That's awesome what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we have time for another question coming from Posh Matt.
I love the nickname. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask Lynn, of course, you've had a career as an actress as well. And what aspects of your career on stage have you brought into your career in spirits, and what's helped you most?
Oh, I think from first and foremost is just presenting and being in front of people and knowing how to speak. The techniques I learned about vocal projection, posture, preparation. Anytime before I do a seminar or anything, whether it's something I've done before, I'm always practicing it before and just getting that into muscle memory. And then of course with, you know, we do a lot of TV and radio and brand work, and I know how to follow my spot. I know how to listen to my mic. I know how to listen to my mic. I know how not to get in the way of all the tech people and all of that. And the first thing whenever I'm on a set, I'm like, just, you know, as a formal actor, I'm going to be the easiest person you've ever worked with. And, you know, I'm like, tape, do whatever you've got to do. It's all good. We'll figure it out. I know if I'm wearing a dress, wear shorts underneath it so they can mic me. I mean, that's a little detail. It's like, you know.
Lynn, we need to introduce you to our head of distillery operations, Sherry Moore, because Sherry has been a behind the scenes person for 30 plus years. And I took her onto her first TV spot a few weeks ago, and it was like it was like a kid who was let out into the public for the first time in her life. She didn't know when to turn. She was left. She was right. She was fat.
You lost her mom at the grocery store.
Like, here's your spot. Here's your mic. They're gonna duct tape the mic to the back of you. Don't worry, it's gonna hurt when they take it off, but you'll get hurt better. I'm like, put some highlight under your eyes. You know, drink a lot of water the night before so you don't look bloated.
God bless Sherry Moore.
I think I have to jump in here. We've had a number of comments.
Yes.
We've had a number of comments about Chastity's fireplace, and I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about
that. I am not the guest tonight. Okay, it's so nice and cozy, guys.
No, but you are the host.
You are the host, and there's plenty of chatter here on the side.
My fireplace. You guys like it?
You're at an Austrian.
I'm so envious. I'm so envious.
Listen, the fireplace is at a TV.
It's her real fireplace.
It's real. It's real.
Yeah, I thought it was the Netflix fireplace for a minute.
I can't.
I'm a little nervous you've actually got the barrel top next to it, though.
So it's so the barrel top is protected. It's leaning on a piece of some glass that's kind of pushed over to the side. It's safe.
And the whiskey as well.
Safety, man.
The whiskey by the fire.
Do you keep some cinnamon dust by the fire to do magic spells?
Just like
no, I have some glitter though.
Those of us who aren't as fancy, if you go on Netflix, there is something you can watch called Fireplace for Your Home.
Exactly.
You can give that a go too.
That's what you were doing, but I'm more impressed with the live fire.
So before we end the evening, I just want to make sure that we get Maurice's question into everybody. You got to think fast.
Okay.
What is your go-to cocktail of the moment?
My go-to cocktail of the moment is whiskey neat.
That's a good one.
Maybe a little ice if I just want to sip on it. But I actually have been drinking, you know, I've been doing a little day drinking, let's not lie. And so I've been drinking Palma with apple juice and tonic.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
Nice little low ABV, kind of takes the edge off in the middle of the day when I'm like, ah! And there's antioxidants in there, right?
Yeah, 1 of your 5 a day.
In the pomegranate, yeah. Ooh, and while we're talking about cocktails, just really quick, just to tell the viewers. So Uncle Nearest cocktail, our Tennessee Buck, You can look at the recipe on our website, but it includes Domaine de Canton, which is from your portfolio.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Yeah, it's one of our signature cocktails.
Fantastic.
Yeah. One question from Kitty before we close out the questions. Kitty, one of our lovely brand ambassadors, she's asking, what is your favorite last call song, Lynn?
You know what? My favorite last call song goes back to when I was bartending and working in college. And I worked at a bar, and I'm not kidding you, the name of it was Attractions. Okay. And every night when we were down, it would be Happy Trails to You. And it was like, boom, and we'd hear it, and we would take our stools, and we would just like slam them on the tables and bars and be like, get out. So that's my favorite song. When I hear them, I'm like, time to go.
Lynn, I went to Ohio State, so I know the place you're talking about. I went to college in the very early 90s. So.
Oh, so you're a Buckeye. Oh,
yes, I am.
Right? Go H.
Yes.
I know.
I could care less. I'm a hockey girl, so.
Let's see, do we have any more questions?
So he also wanted to know the panelists go-to cocktail as well.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I'll jump in and say I've been making a lot of Boulevardiers currently.
Nice.
And also, I'll give you a favorite closing song. When I worked at Tom Bergen's, people would not want to leave at closing. And one bartender friend of mine, Jared, would always put on Enya. And I tell you, within 30 seconds, everyone knew they had to leave. They were like, oh, yeah, we got to go. We got to go.
Oh, yeah.
That is so awesome.
My go-to cocktail. So I have two. If the weather is warm and hot or whatever, I want a paper plane.
Nice.
And in the fall and winter, I want a New York sour because it incorporates whiskey and wine, two of my favorite spirits. Yeah. What about you, Ian?
I've been making a lot of Black Manhattans at home lately, and Nick has been having me make a lot of Boulevardiers also, Matt. So doing a lot of those.
He's got good taste.
Oh, I have a quick tip.
Taste.
With Uncle Near, it's 1856 too. It's fantastic.
And put a half ounce of Palma in your Boulevardier. Oh my God, it is so good, guys. Try it.
Okay. All right. Happy to.
I'll try it.
At the moment, it's been Remember the Maine. I've got a thing for absinthe at the moment. Lockdown, why not? Strong alcohol, and I've got a sweet tooth as well.
Cool.
Send the recipe, Matt. Well, firstly, I can't believe that nobody said the song "Closing Time."
Oh, God,
that's the worst.
That's the worst.
I like these last $2. I don't know who sings that song. Lynn, who sings that song? Do you know?
Nobody knows.
It's
the word.
horrible.
It's just
I don't
closing
know.
time and then da 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 da. That's it. That's the whole song.
Semisonic, Cody says.
Oh God, yeah.
Semisonic. Someone just called.
Someone called you a millennial, Richie.
I think Richie is an elder millennial. Aren't you an elder millennial?
An Eldonian.
Archaical.
Cusp. I'm the one before last year of millennials, so I am a millennial. I'm not old. I'm a millennial.
You're not old. You're an elder millennial. It's okay. It's okay. Embrace
Exactly.
it.
Mature.
Yeah, exactly.
Millennial, mature millennial. That's what. Yeah. So I've been drinking some whiskey neat, but during the day I love drinking tall drinks. So some whiskey, maybe like lower ABV, some 80, 86 or 90 proof, with some club soda and an orange twist is just like so refreshing. I love it.
Yummy.
Yeah. Very nice.
Well, guys, real quick, I just want to announce the rest of our lineup for our viewers. You can catch us tomorrow for our Thursday Cocktail Club right here at Zoom. And then on, actually, I'm sorry, I missed this in my notes. Can anybody jump in here and help me? What's on Friday and Saturday?
So Saturday, you'll be able to follow us on Instagram.
Okay.
And then, oh my God, what is Fridays?
Friday, is that May?
Thank you.
Yes.
This is my new life. We were joking that I'm stuck to this chair 7 days a week, and my husband just, throws food downstairs, but in my basement. It is our happy hour. That's why I face, and our whiskey maven, May, our other brand steward from LA, hosts that, and she has some really exciting, fun guests. And Friday, it's going to be a certified sommelier that will be tasting Uncle Nearest for the first time live.
Very
Amazing.
cool. Well, guys, you can always go to our Uncle Nearest IG page, Facebook page, and keep up to date with all of our shows that we're doing to keep you all engaged during this quarantine time. I want to thank our guest, Lynn, for joining us tonight.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
to my lovely whiskey
Pleasure.
family for keeping things engaging. And I'm going to end the
Cheers.
night with a whiskey fact and a toast, okay?
Okay.
So my whiskey fact is one of my favorites, that the word whiskey comes from the Gaelic word, which means water of life. So always keep whiskey in your cabinet, just like you keep water in your fridge, guys. And if we can just raise our glasses for a toast, okay? So I'm going to read this up. Some ships are wooden ships, but those ships may sink. The best ships are friendships, and to those ships we drink. Thanks, guys,
Yes.
for joining us.
Cheers.
Until next
Cheers, y'all.
time, stay safe, drink honorably, and cheers.
And Maurice says, thank you for paving the way, Lynn.
Aw, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
From all of us. Thank you.
I think we had one last question too
Oh.
for Lynn. I had heard that your grandmother was a poet. I was wondering if you might
Yes.
share with us your favorite
Aw.
of her poems.
All right. Absolutely. I'm prepared, so don't worry. I put the specs on now. The vanity goes away because I'm blind as a bat. So my grandmother is Lily Mae Carter, and she's like in the who's who of famous Kentuckians and American famous poets. And I was like Googling her today and found out like Western Kentucky University did like a class on her and all this, which is kind of crazy. So trying to end on a positive note and thinking about how we're all into this. I'm going to read her poem, Not for My Children. And then we'll cheers. All right. I do not sing a song of hate to my children. Instead, a song of love I sing. The love of birds and bees and the world's glorious trees, trees in spring, summer full blows, vibrant autumn ones, snow-capped winter ones, through which the sun has shone and glistened. And in the shimmering icicles shine bright from early morn to velvet night, of fluffy snowflakes twirling by, a beautiful frenzy from the sky, a frenzy from the winter sky, of peoples, all colors, races, creeds, which combine to weave beautiful mosaics and tapestries, of music, folk, spirituals, deeply rooted, blues, country too. I do not sing a song of hate to my children. Instead, I sing a song of love. What kind of song sing you? So let's all sing a song. We're going to get through this together. We're all in it together. Can't wait to toast you on the other side. So cheers.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers, Lynn.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, everyone, and
Thank
see
you.
us right back here next week.